What's up? My name's Glue Boy, welcome back, and today I'm going to make a different type of content. This isn't really based on lore or anything, it's based on the books. Because recently I got a job that allows me to have headphones on while I work, giving me an excellent excuse to binge through 40k and Horus Heresy content, which is fantastic. I think a strong element of my videos that I'm trying to actually bring to my lore is that I'm very true to the books, and like my books are my primary source, and I want to deliver lore that you probably haven't seen on wikis or other videos, so it's a good endeavor for me to read the books, which is something I've tried to undertake since I got into Warhammer, which was like 2015, 2016, somewhere around then. But I've been reading through the Horus Heresy series, and currently I'm on Descent of Angels, and I've worked through a few, and this specific video is the kind of reason I wanted to start this, as I'm talking about Flight of the Eisenstein, a book I finished a few days ago. And I think it's really interesting, and I have a lot of thoughts on it that I want to kind of throw at the void. So this might be something you find interesting. It's not going to be my normal type of content. Which, some disclaimers here. I am not an English major. I'm not well-versed in actual book stuff, writing. I'm not that. I come from a film background, and a film writing background. That's what I studied in college, where I recently graduated, and that's more my storytelling expertise. So some of these opinions and media analysis and criticism might stem from that film background. So I don't know if any of you authors or actual book reviewers take any umbrage with some of my takes or my pullaways from a book. Let me know. I actually genuinely want to know if there's any problems with this. That, and the tone of this video is going to be a bit different, as I have a genuine aversion to just being online and being genuine online. It's not something I enjoy, because I don't personally enjoy it when other content creators I like do it. I don't give a shit what's going on in their actual brain or their lives. I don't care. So I bring it to my videos where I assume you, the audience, don't give a shit. But I'm going to actually be trying to be genuine and give my honest opinions on stuff in this series if it goes on. Because the character I play in my normal content, the Glue Boy character, is a lot more aggressive and kind of opinionated than I really am. I have a lot of more nuanced takes. As much shit as I give the Eldar, at the end of the day, it's an aesthetic preference that I just don't care about the Eldar. I don't actually hate them, but that's just kind of the YouTube game. You play an amplified version of yourself. So this is going to be a method of me to actually sit down and talk normally and hopefully actually have a discussion, because I am genuinely interested in your takes on my opinions or your takes on this book. But regardless, we're going to go right into the Flight of the Eisenstein, a book I'm very conflicted on. So a key thing I keep thinking, and a key thing I've been talking about with this book, as I've gone over this with some of my friends, some of which who've actually read this book, and I've been throwing around the phrase that this book, I think, is just aggressively alright. It doesn't live up to, I think, the absolute hype that is the first 5 books of the Horus Heresy series. I think the first 5 books are fucking fantastic. If you're going to read this series and want to jump around storylines, you have to at least read the first 5. It's super important. I think Flight of the Eisenstein is the most mediocre and kind of forgettable of the 5, but that still puts it in that same category. It's like the situation where all 5 things in a row are fantastic, and then one is just less fantastic. Because I still think the Flight of the Eisenstein does some really good things. My problem is every once in a while there's a chapter or a moment that kind of rips me out of the experience and kind of rips away at my immersion and my focus in the actual story. Though I will be spoiling the Flight of the Eisenstein, so if you actually want to read the book, or you care about spoilers in some way, probably not the series for you. If you don't care, or you've read it already, cool, keep watching. But first thing, I'm going to get into actual parts I enjoyed, and the parts I think are really good. First off, I think Mortarion absolutely rules. His characterization in this book is really interesting, because you see him through a lot of other lenses. And even in Galaxy in Flames, you see Mortarion, and he's this very sullen, quiet, does not speak unless he really has to. And then in this book, when he's actually interacting with the Death Guard, he seems like a decent Primarch, familiar, has a decent relationship with his sons, especially to Garrow, which Nathaniel Garrow is Terran-born, and Mortarion despises the Terran-born Marines, though he believed that Garrow could be a really good addition to the Heresy, which I'm curious if that'll be expanded on later, because I want to know his take on that whole situation. But I think Mortarion is really interesting, especially because the book brings up a lot of Death Guard culture in a really cool way. The fact that Death Guard are really realistic, often called cynical. There's a character, Cruz, and Luna Wolf, X Sons of Horus, that calls out Garrow and a lot of behavior of like, you Death Guard are so cynical, when, as Garrow puts it, we're being realistic and planning for the eventuality. And also the whole aspect of the Death Guard hate like any sort of fancy shit. Like none of their things are decorated or gilded. It's just like the thing, which I think is really fun. But speaking of Garrow, I'll actually talk about him more later, because he is kind of the source of some problems I have with the book. But I think there's some parts of him that are fantastic. The fact that he's a genuinely good battle captain, he's a good leader, he plans well, he works with his team well, and has a great relationship with them that I think is something you don't see a lot in 40k and like Horus Heresy books. Because a lot of characters sometimes this happens, where you're told the character is super smart, super powerful, and all you are shown that for that to be the case is people affirming it. You don't actually see anything that proves it. I think Garrow proves himself through his actions to be a good battle captain. And to that aspect, I really like his character. That and Dorn is in this book. I love Dorn. He's one of my favorite Primarchs, if not my absolute favorite. So seeing Dorn here and seeing him done well is really cool, because Dorn is kind of terrifying in this book. The parts where he is angry are fucking great. The specific part where he's yelling at Garrow is, ooh, it's gold. Solid gold. I love that chapter. Also, the entire ending slaps so fucking hard. Like, the last, 2 chapters, I think it was, amazing. I love the entire battle with the Lord of Flies, Garrow actually finding religion, the ending showcase of Malkador, which is going to lead up to him being part of the Knights Errant, which is a very important thing. It, down the line, the Heresy, that part is really cool. I love the ending of this book. It's fantastic. But then I want to get into some of my actual problems with the book. And problems, I think, is a strong word, because I don't actually hate these. I'm conflicted, as I both think there are good interpretations you could have of this, and I think some of it is purely on myself, but I'm curious if anyone else agrees with these takes, so that's why I'm voicing them. But mainly for Garrow's character itself is one of my big problems, as I think he kind of flip-flops in his characterization in a weird bit, as he goes from this kick-ass ideal Death Guard character to just randomly waxing philosophy and being really dramatic, really, really melodramatic. He makes a lot of speeches with weird points in them. I don't know. He flip-flops in that aspect. I don't like the part of him that will just sit there and philosophize on something. It's not a character trait I really enjoy unless I think it's written super well, which I'm not as big of a fan of in this. I've seen other Horus Heresy and 40k books do it better, and I don't think Garrow does it that great. My impression of parts of this book were that it felt more like Garrow had a personality that would change suited for the plot, rather than an actual ironed out personality. Which, even more on the flip-flop part, he finds religion in this book 4 times, and admittedly, it's probably because I missed some shit, something came up and I wasn't fully listening to the book when it came up, or other situations, maybe I just forgot about it, my memory is really bad, so, And I talked about this with a friend of mine who likes this book, and he had some points on this, as I feel like Garrow forgets the lessons he learns when it comes to faith, and then down the line, middle of the book, he's throwing out faith constantly, but then he finds religion 2 more times. It feels weird. It feels like he learns something and then just straight up forgets it a few chapters later. I think the intention was showing the Space Marine struggle with fighting against something you've been brought up to learn, which, is actually just a thing people have to deal with in general. You showcase they're taught up with the Imperial truth, science, no religion, gods are bad, all that stuff. And then you have some actual proof and evidence in front of you in a person that the Emperor is a god and he deserves worship. So then that battle you have is a hard one. It's a lot of cognitive dissonance you need to play into. But the moment where he learns about faith, learns about worship, like starts to kind of believe the Emperor's a god, the moments in the story are kind of undermined in a way as he didn't really need faith in the end, which is the point. That's what it's supposed to be. It didn't feel that way to me. It's not the impression I got. It really only mattered at the end. I feel like it could have been edited a little bit, because the ending part where he finds faith against the battle with the Lord of Flies and stares up at Terra as it rises in like the sky, really cool. That moment rules, and that part is super poignant and powerful. I feel like having the parts before it kind of undermined that aspect. And then the last bit is it's just another regurgitation of that I think Garrow is weirdly dramatic, as there's a part that completely made me like kind of go against Garrow in this instant, which is something I don't think you want with a protagonist. You kind of want to side with your protagonist in a lot of aspects, or at least understand their decision making. And this is the part. So it's when Garrow is with Dorn and some other fucking Imperial Fist captain. I don't remember his name. I just know it wasn't Sigismund. And it's after the whole first confrontation, and Garrow is told, like, hey, by the way, we're going to contain you guys. We're going to put you in holding cells and wait it out, because while we understand that the point you're telling is true, Istvan 3 happened, we believe it occurred, all of the treachery. However, this could be a larger plot, a larger situation in general. You could be part of some really complicated, like Alpha Legion-y type assassination attempt on the Emperor. We're not just going to let you go to Big E and chat with them. We have to verify things first. And Garrow immediately is like, here is my sword, Rogaldorn. If you don't believe me, kill me now, on my honor. And, like, he starts yelling about, like, why don't you believe me? When they're not saying we don't believe you, they're saying we need to verify things because, like, as he puts it, like, the reason I don't trust you right away is you're not an Imperial Fist. I can't justify following you blindly. And the language of the book makes it feel like we're meant to be like, oh, Dorn's so unreasonable right now. But in reality, like, he's making some good-ass points. If they're going to plan this entire, like, virus bombing Istvan 3 with multiple people brought into, like, this betrayal, I feel like it's reasonable to be like, well, you could still be part of it. Willing or unwilling, this could be part of the plan that we need to justify. And it is a fair point. Dorn is being really slow about this. This needs to be told, like, now, like, right away. But it just comes across as Garrow being weirdly dramatic about something. And also, like, just yelling about honor. And I understand it's a big Space Marine thing, and maybe I have a disconnect with that aspect. But, like, hard evidence is important, and you can't just take somebody's word because they said, on my honor, when there's a large group of Space Marines, like a few systems over, that are actively being dishonorable and showing that you can't trust their honor. So, I don't know, dude. That part fully ripped me out, where I was like, Garrow, you're being super unreasonable right now, and, like, calm down. And then I have another problem with the character, and I'm struggling with this one, because I don't actually hate them. I like them a lot. I just think they're written really weird. I'm talking about Euphrates Keela, and the reason also just going to preface this real quick, I think it's a really dangerous and weird and really fucking lame form of media critique that I see a lot, especially nerdy circles, where there's a lot of tendencies to hate the woman character for being a woman. That's not what this is. I think Keela is a really interesting character, and especially in the early parts, before she found religion and would become an Imperial Saint, I think she's fucking great. But the moment she finds religion, she kind of changes her entire character, and it's this book specifically that I see the large thing with her problem, and that's just her dialogue. Her dialogue is the only thing I have problems with. Again, I'm not trying to play into hate woman character for talking. That's not what this is, please. Because her presence in the story, her effect on people is fantastic. She's an excellent character that exists. My problem is that in this specific story, the author uses her as a vessel for one-liners, if that makes any sense. I see this often in a lot of writing in general. It's not just 40k, not just this book, where there's dialogue that is so aggressively there to set up a one-liner. And I can't, it's really grating.
I shouldn't be surprised. Since you indoctrinated Robin into crime fighting at the ripe old age of 9.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
Where I can tell it's coming from a screenwriting perspective, and it's annoying, and I don't like that. I prefer a lot more naturalistic dialogue. It's why I'm very, very strong on the idea of a character being consistent and having a consistent voice, having just kind of, it feels like the author's poking his head in, like, I thought of this cool line, let me just fit it around here. We'll have a whole paragraph just dedicated to working through that. And that's what Keela's dialogue is a lot of. It's characters asking really dumb questions or just posing some random thoughts so Keela can come in and be like, here's my cool line about worshiping the Emperor. I don't like that aspect of her. Even though partway through the book, there's a fantastic part with like one or two of those like one-liner moments sprinkled in that I think is strong, where Keela is being honest with Garrow and talking about like, you have to find your own place in the universe. Do you think I want to be on this path either? It's making the best of the situation you make for it and being that leader figure that people can look up to. I think it's a really genuinely cool discussion. And I think it's sad in comparison with what Keela was in the first few books of the Horus Heresy, like Horus Rising and False Gods, because she was super cool in that. She brought out some really fun parts of Loken and was a fantastic side character to now, like, very prominent character, like, good shit. But, I don't know, it's hard for me to get invested in a character when I know whenever they're going to start talking, I'm going to get annoyed at just the writing style. So I'm looking forward to seeing her more in future books. Hopefully she's characterized in a method I actually enjoy more. And so I don't have to tread this dangerous ground of seeming like the nerd who hates the woman for being present in a man's story. Because that's, again, that's not what this is. I really hope that's not how this is coming across. I hate that shit. It's like the people that hate Skylar from Breaking Bad for being a woman in the story when, I don't know. But anyways, I've gone on for long enough. I don't have any other thoughts really about the book. I don't know. I'm genuinely curious if there's anyone who's read Flight of the Eisenstein that wants to talk about this in the comments. Please do. I'm super interested in having a honest feedback from this video. Is this something you want to see more of? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Don't really have much else to say. So see ya.